Indiana Jones and the Great Circle isn't really a game so much as it is a playable movie. It kind of did for me what the original trilogy did for my dad, which is have a story to pass on to my children. After 25 hours of playing through this game, doing mostly what the game has to offer, I can definitely say it is a kind of weird game to recommend. Most of what I liked about it doesn't have to come from any of its necessarily gamey aspects, but most of it comes from both the storytelling and the performance, which is normally not what I would say get a game for, but I will say that this is a story-based game, a story-heavy game, definitely worth looking into. And I also think it's definitely the place for either dead or dying franchises, just like Indiana Jones. So let's get into why Indiana Jones makes an okay game, but a great story for us 90s kids who are all grown up now. If you make it to the end of the video, I would appreciate it if you would comment what series you would think would make a great game. And with that, this video's sponsor is brought to you by me, the Dadimer. If you enjoy this take on Indiana Jones and you do make it to the end, would you please whip that subscribe button and swipe your hat over the like button? And now let's get into Indiana Jones. A lot of way Indiana Jones and the Great Circle works is there's no aliens. And there's no washed up Indy.
No, you won't.
I need to do this.
Me too.
Instead, the devs took what really worked about the original trilogy and incorporated them as elements of the background. So you see the elements of historic Christianity. You see the plane traveling on the map there with the red dots and the red lines. You have the sound effects with the original punching there. And these all add nostalgia to the game without really them being the point of the game. And instead, what it does do is actually tell a brand new self-contained story within the Indiana Jones universe. You can tell the devs really did their homework about what made Indiana Jones great in the first place. And they really focused in on that without focusing it. And they really did that and they really did that while leaving out what didn't work from the last two movies. Without spoiling anything really, I'm just kind of dancing around the topic for those who have not played it yet, but there are a little bit absurd elements of this game. But I will say they do line up with Indiana Jones' character and what's being put out there. And even as absurd as a couple of things are, at least even they're funny and therefore forgivable. Looking back at two of the previous movies, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull and Dial of Destiny, Kingdom of Crystal Skull was pretty silly, but at least it didn't go into the Dial of Destiny territory where it just made Indiana Jones into this complete miserable, just miserable guy who just, is a grumpy mess. To me, the world is a grumpy enough place as it is. I mean, just look at the price of literally anything out there. And where this game really shines is it really has a very positive aspect of Indiana Jones without being too whimsical or anything like that. It's funny, it's fun, and it really, I think, restores your enjoyment of the Indiana Jones character. And not even just that, but it justifies its existence. It's not just a cash grab. It might not be as good as the originals, but it might not be as good as the originals, but at least it's a story worth telling. And it's told by people that are passionate about Indy. I'm intentionally leaving a lot of what I say as pretty vague because I don't like giving out specific things that happen, because it's really better that if you just kind of enjoy it for yourself. But when I say that at the end of it, you after having played it, I think you'll have those feelings of this as well. Oddly enough, what I really thought really drove home this game for me was Troy Baker's performance. Asterisk, I am a bit of a Troy Baker fanboy. I'm not I'm not going to make a YouTube video about like how great Troy is in general and stuff, or like say like, hey, like, you know, talk to my friends and say, hey, you should get this because Troy Baker's in it. That's more personally for me. When I see a trailer, when I see a game that Troy Baker's in, I'm a little bit more likely to look at it because I know, you know, he's probably did his homework and thinks the story's good in it. So therefore I'm probably going to enjoy it at least. Case in point, the new the new Mouse PI. That's Troy Baker being in that is more sprinkling on the top. It already looked like a good game in and of itself. It looks like Cuphead meets Call of Duty. And then they say that, and then they just announced that Troy Baker is starring the lead role. And I remember when he did BioShock Infinite, like that was just a whole really cool experience. So to me, like the games that I've played with him in it are you know, have a proven track record, at least with me. So when I say that, know that there is a little bit of fanboy in there. So when I'm recommending this game, you know, sort of based on Troy's performance, I mean, even my wife was impressed at how closely that Troy Baker voiced a younger Harrison Ford. While there was parts that sounded very like Troy. There was a lot of some of his like yelling on part of the adventure, and some of his like kind of like more outrageous parts. Definitely, I was all like, wow, that's like a 1-to-1 comparison with Indiana Jones with Harrison Ford's voice. And typically in games like this, I really wouldn't recommend a game based on a performance. I mean, that's more what you recommend a movie for. But because really in a game, you got to focus on the player, not the performance. You know, unless you're like Hideo Kojima and you like watching your Metal Gear Solid video games, you know, like that. You know, that's a whole nother story. But really, when you watch this, when you play through this game, you can really tell that Troy really committed himself to becoming Indiana Jones in the 80s.
Passing through fire is a reference to Isaiah.
Do you think it's literal?
That's not good.
Did you get burned?
Yeah! Pretty sure it's literal!
Hey, I'm trapped here!
Hang on! I'll figure this out.
Don't burn yourself! Be careful!
Yeah, I'm going to go full out IGN and say, you know, The Great Circle makes you feel like Indiana Jones. I mean, after you have played through the game, you'll definitely get that sense. And what's cool about this is that actors like Troy Baker doing this role, it does eliminate the need for AI. Personally, I think there's a lot of over-reliance on AI these days. I mean, I do think the technology is cool, but then when you get something like screen protectors saying equipped for AI, it's like, okay, like just stop with this marketing term, please. So then there's the gameplay of Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, and so a lot of the combat in this game is going to just be like decking people in the face. What's really fun about being Indiana Jones is obviously the whip. The whip is really fun to really, you know, like just whip people by the neck, bring them in, and just be like, all right, fella, boom, boom, just keep on just going to town on them. There are guns in this game, but the game clearly does not want you to use guns like in the traditional sense. I mean, you can definitely shoot people, but the guns are so loud that they're going to attract a lot of noise and therefore a lot of enemies to you. So using the gun really, like in shooting, you really should use sparingly, if at all. A better function for the guns is actually just whacking people with them. You can knock people out in 3, maybe 4 hits, depending on the type of enemy, and that goes to like the other weapons in the environment as well too. Like, so Indiana Jones has a revolver. You know, I never really used it. I more picked up other people's guns, if anything, but like really, you know, you pick up shovels, pickaxes, bamboo sticks, stuff like that. Like it's just it pretty much just using anything in the environment with which to knock enemies out. That's kind of the name of the game here. And you know, and that stays true to Indiana Jones's character. I mean, I definitely saw Indiana Jones shoot people. Obviously, there's the big famous scene. But like that's also more played for comedy. I mean, Indiana Jones, you wouldn't really think of him exactly as a killer. So I did find this alternative combat in this game to be quite refreshing. And so one of the other things in this game, though, and I'm going to say this as a negative, but the enemies appear to be extremely nearsighted. A lot of when I was approaching enemies, it seemed that I had to be within an arm's length to get them to even notice me. I would be running not far, but also not like super close either. And I'm just like, hey guy, I'm over here, And it definitely seemed a little weird for them to be that nearsighted. So, the game is not without its faults, but I just want to let you know that that's there. I did comment a few times to my wife watching me play this, and it definitely did break the immersion, maybe a tad. When I finished this game and I talked to my friends the next day about it, I definitely recommended to them, not necessarily as a game, but as a great Indiana Jones story. The gameplay is fun. It doesn't overstay its welcome, and but the gameplay is not. It doesn't really stand out amongst any other video games I've played. Like if you strip away the Indiana Jones, would it be as fun? I don't really think so, because really the game is more of a recommendation of the story than anything else. But I really would recommend you playing this kind of with your older kids, kind of like I watched the original trilogy with my dad. I think this is going to be a great time for you guys as a family to enjoy. And it really, pass this, it's really good for us 90s kids to pass this on to our kids. Usually story heavy gameplay is kind of a thing where the gameplay, because the gameplay isn't as focused on, it's like, okay, I'm going to just endure this gameplay. It's repetitive and stuff. I'm kind of checked out in the gameplay aspect, but I do want to see the end of the story. So I'm just going to trudge through it to see the end. An example of that for me would be Guardians of the Galaxy. I did think the gameplay of that got a little bit too repetitive towards the end. And, so I was kind of like, all right, let's get to the end of the story here. But Indiana Jones, I think, is timed perfectly. It doesn't grow stale. It was definitely at risk of that after around the 25-hour mark, but I had a thoroughly good time with it, and I think you will too. Another comment is there's really no true physical copy of this game. I played it on Xbox. It's out for PS5 and PS5 Pro. None of these games have an actual good physical release at all, so you might want to get this on digital if you get this game. And with that really leads me to games really are a really great place for either dead or dying franchises. I really think this is a really good I really do think this is a really good way to relive your childhood and relive your nostalgia. So we do have Indiana Jones, we do have RoboCop out now. These are some of the modern examples of continuing franchises there. I really think that a Terminator game would go very well with this strategy, as long as you have a passionate group of developers, really. When you look at Indiana Jones and the the fifth movie, the Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, I think there was something about $300 million being put into that movie. And when I watched it, I was like, what? Why? There's not even it doesn't even really continue Indiana Jones's story. It just kind of makes him really mopey, and Karen comes in at the end and just kind of I guess forgives him for everything, and we didn't see any of that built up. What is the point of this movie other than a cash grab? Instead, you have a very passionate team at Machine Games putting their all into this game, and it's very worth experiencing for that. I mean, I think if we can get that formula in with Terminator or even something like Rambo, I think those franchises can be revived through video games as well. So let me know what franchises you think could get the video game treatment, the playable story-based adventure, in the comments below. I'm going to leave a video up about the dark side of owning every console. I own a Switch 2, a Switch, a PS5, and an Xbox Series X. And really, at some point, one of them tends to get left behind at some point when I'm not really focusing on my playlist here. I don't have Game Pass, and I have a couple of the subscriptions there, but I'll let you know my thoughts on that in the video next.